You're not half bad. You killed my father. Like father, like son.
Welcome to the motherfucker. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Per the desk of most valuable promotions, Amanda Serrano says she's starting camp.
Already?
What do you think is next for the Queen? The previous fight with Cheyenne Henson only lasted about 2 rounds, which would explain the quick turnaround. I think Amanda had a harder time in training camp than in the actual fight, because the fight didn't last very long. So if the camp is starting now for her next bout, you're looking at a fight that could take place in either late August or early September. I think it would be nice to take Amanda back to the island of Puerto Rico. Initially, they were going to do a homecoming fight for her there, but she suffered that eye injury and was unable to compete. It would be fitting with the decorum of fighters that are bowing out from the sport of boxing. Katie Taylor, boxing at Croke Park in Ireland, and Amanda potentially boxing at a stadium in Puerto Rico.
For what could be her swan song.
Before she knocked out Cheyenne Henson in 2 rounds earlier this year, her last knockout before that was against Stevie Morgan in July of 2024, roughly 2 years ago. 2 years later, she's managed to match Christy Martin's knockout record.
32 KOs. The goal now is to surpass it.
Sporting a professional record of 49 wins with 4 losses and 1 draw, 32 knockouts, having never been knocked out. In 54 professional bouts, she's currently on a 2-fight winning streak after dropping 2 decisions to Katie Taylor. She's got the decision win over Reina Tellez and the knockout win over Cheyenne Henson, and she means to end her boxing career in knockout fashion. It's not a record that will easily be topped. As we all know, the women don't rack up as many knockouts as the men do. Amanda Serrano has cultivated this extensive knockout record over 17 years as a professional boxer, close to 2 decades, so it won't be easy to match or surpass it.
She's got a few records already.
I believe she is the first and only 7-weight world champion women's boxing has ever produced, and I know that she's the only 7-division Puerto Rican world champion. There isn't another in either the men's or the women's divisions.
She is 1/2 of the most watched women's boxing match in the history of women's boxing with Katie Taylor, and currently she is the highest paid woman boxer in the sport.
Surpassing Christy Martin's knockout record would be yet another feather in Amanda Serrano's cap as she closes out her boxing career and steps into a more managerial role at MVP, overseeing the women boxers, which ones they acquire, which ones they develop. So she's not walking away completely from the sport of boxing. She's still going to be around.
What about the opponent?
Well, at this late stage in Amanda Serrano's boxing career, it's less about the opponent and less about unifying titles and more about closing things out on her terms, what could be a fairy tale ending for the Puerto Rican slugger. I don't know who they have in mind, but you have to figure it's going to be someone at or around featherweight.
So we'll discuss whatever other information is divulged as this potential fight date develops.
Speaking of developing fights, veteran boxing scribe Mike Coppinger says talks are underway for Jaron Boots Ennis to face Sebastian Fundora in November or December in a 3-belt unification. Sources tell Ring Magazine Josh Kelly is another possibility for Ennis following his July 25th title defense. Boots versus Fundora, what a fight that would be.
This news comes to us at a time when veteran trainer Robert Garcia just said about his charge, Vergil Ortiz, that he'd be ready to fight Boots straight away.
Sure he would, he's just not going to.
Robert, thank you so much for joining us today. You know, after the fight on Saturday night, Eddie Hearn said that, you know, he'd like to fight Vergil Ortiz next, but will Vergil Ortiz want to fight Boots Ennis next? Would you guys jump right into that after this layoff?
Look, I already talked to the team. I talked to Vergil Sr., Vergil himself. We'll go straight into the fight. I think Eddie started saying that because maybe that's what he wants for Boots. Maybe he wants another fight for Boots before we're fighting Vergil. But no, if the fight is presented, and I'm pretty sure Golden Boy, because Oscar De La Hoya also came out saying that, you know, he's gonna try to push for the fight to be next. We're ready for it. You know, Vergil fought last November. Vergil, even though he's been going through those issues with his promotion and all that, his contract, whatever it is, he's in the gym. He's always training. He's sparring. So yes, we will go straight into the fight. It's a huge fight. It's a fight that I know we could win. So I would love to go straight into the fight. No problem at all.
As you watched the fight on Saturday night, were you watching it as Vergil's trainer, saying, "Hey, what are the elements of Boots' game that we can pick apart here"? Did you feel like there are openings where your fighter can win this fight? Do you feel confident about that?
The fight got so excited and back and forth action that I became a fan. Also, I was jumping up and down because I was there live. I was jumping up and down. It was a great fight. Sanders showed a lot. More than anybody else expected, and Boots also did the same thing. Getting tagged a couple times, but responding and coming back stronger and winning the fight by knockout. That showed a lot about Boots. But those are the fights. Watching it as a possible fight for one of my fighters, 100%. I'm also watching that, and I see a lot of points where Vergil could take advantage of. Vergil could really benefit from that, and that's why we're at where I said, man, let's do this fight. It's something that I don't question that Vergil beats Boots.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Robert. Appreciate it.
The thing about Jaron Ennis fighting Sebastian Fundora next, which I didn't expect, and I'm not sure if I should even get excited.
It's not good for Vergil.
Just because talks are underway doesn't mean things can't fall apart in the 13th hour. They did for Manny Pacquiao and Rolly Romero and Devin Haney, Rolly Romero and Ryan Garcia. How many fights we seen fall apart after preliminary talks ensued? There's still plenty of time between now and November for Samson Lukowicz to fuck this up.
But on the premise that the talks are serious, and the fight between Boots and Sebastian actually happens, it's not good for Vergil, because whoever wins that fight, and I think it's gonna be Boots, has a lot of bargaining power over Vergil Ortiz if you let him collect a third alphabet title in his second consecutive pay-per-view fight,
where you still haven't been in your first.
You can't then stroll in afterwards thinking that you're on equal footing with Jaron Ennis. They already tried to pull that stunt with Xander Zayas.
Didn't work with them.
Remember when Team Ortiz made that faux offer to Xander Zayas after Xander had already become a world champion, where Vergil still has yet to do that? They tried to tell him where the fight was going to be and what the splits were. They essentially tried to dictate terms to Xander, who was a world champion at the time, where they weren't and still aren't. So if you allow Jaron Ennis to beat you to the punch, to get to Sebastian before you do, and he beats him, you don't get to stroll in afterwards and dictate terms to Boots.
No, sir.
At that point, he would be a two-time, two-weight unified champion who just picked up his third alphabet title in what would be his second pay-per-view appearance. And what would Vergil bring to the table?
I mean, in terms of bargaining power, as a bargaining chip, you don't get to ask for a 50-50 split when it's Boots Ennis doing all the heavy lifting. And what's worse is, it's Vergil Ortiz's own fault, because he's been WBC interim champion for 2 whole years.
No good reason for Boots Ennis to get to Sebastian Fundora before you did, when you had 2 years to do it. And I didn't see Vergil, or anybody on the Golden Boy promotion side of things, put any pressure on Sebastian, a Samson Lukowicz, at a World Boxing Council to do that fight. They just sat on their hands.
Vergil Ortiz has got to be one of the most mismanaged fighters I've ever seen. A guy who's in a perpetual state of coming back. Every time you see him, he's coming off a lengthy stint of inactivity, whether it's illness, injury, or just plain old mismanagement.
Guy's always in a perpetual state of coming back. You could argue that the Erickson-Lubin fight was little more than just a stay busy fight, a tune-up fight. And now he's about to go into his second consecutive tune-up fight, while Boots is going into a unification match, because whether it's Sebastian Fundora or Josh Kelly,
it's gonna be one of them, and whichever one it is, it's a unification match.
This guy ain't been in the junior middleweight division nowhere near as long as Vergil Ortiz, but he's picking up alphabet titles left and right, while you're trying to backdoor your longtime promoter. The guys at Matchroom are getting shit done.
So believe me when I tell you that if Boots Ennis wins that fight and beats Sebastian Fundora, picks up a third alphabet title, you don't get to stroll in afterwards thinking you get half. The question now is, does Jaron Ennis have what it takes to defeat the Towering Inferno, who his last 3 or 4 fights has been showing noticeable improvements.
Where before he used to give up his height and length to trade punches mid-range to inside, he's using his height and his length more, using his jab more,
and holding his feet less in an effort to make himself a difficult man to get to. He's finally starting to capitalize off of his natural gifts, and we know he's a hard puncher to some degree.
So does Boots beat him?
And I would say yes. I would say Boots has what it takes to stop this guy, because if Brian Mendoza packs a big enough wallop to put you down and keep you down, then so does Boots.
The intrigue is going to be that Boots ain't that guy that walks through the water without getting wet. He's no defensive genius. He's no Pernell Whitaker, no Floyd Mayweather. He does get hit.
Simultaneously, that's what makes him so exciting to watch and casual-friendly. He's got a fan-friendly style. But how does that style play out against Sebastian Fundora? Because he can punch.
To some degree, he can.
Does Sebastian Fundora crack harder than Xander Zayas? I would say yes. Punch for punch, I do think he's a stronger puncher than Xander, and Xander managed to hurt Boots. So what happens if Sebastian hits him?
No bueno.
The thing is, I don't think it'll get that far, because I could see Jaron Ennis stopping Sebastian Fundora inside the first half of the fight. Inside the first 6. I'm saying it now. I think Boots knocks him out.
Screenshot it, screen record it, whatever you want to do. I think Boots knocks this guy out.
And he does it in the first half. The reason for it is all Boots really has to do is get past the long jab of Sebastian Fundora.
Get on the inside.
Once he's there, he can beat Sebastian Fundora from the inside out. When you're the shorter fighter, the closer you are to the target, the better your chances will be. So all Boots has got to do is slip past the long jab of Sebastian, and I think he can. It's good that Sebastian has been working on things, and we're seeing noticeable improvements, but against who?
Tim Tszyu? Cordell Booker? Keith Thurman?
These guys ain't exactly carbon copies of Jaron Ennis. They don't bring to the table all the tools that Jaron Ennis will bring. I believe that through a combination of head movement, level changes, Boots Ennis can get around the long jab of Sebastian Fundora to crash the pocket, get inside, and beat him from the inside out, because Boots' hooks, his uppercuts, his bent arm punches are noticeably shorter and sharper than Sebastian's. Sebastian can't help it because of his height and his length, those very long arms. In the pocket, he's vulnerable.
They create very big holes up the middle and around the side where you can sneak in with punches, and I think that Boots can.
There's going to be noticeable movement on the Ring IQ pound for pound list in the fall if Boots Ennis adds a third alphabet title to his collection. I could see him and David Benavidez jointly moving past Emmanuel Navarrete.
3-division unified champion Emmanuel Navarrete, who's currently ranked at number 7.
Say David Benavidez beats Noel Mikhailian and unifies a third alphabet title, and Boots does the same thing at junior middle. He beats Sebastian or Josh Kelly, whichever one of them he gets. They're going to end up moving past Emmanuel, at which point Emmanuel would drop down to number 9, just ahead of 2-division champion Brandon Figueroa.
It looks like either way, when Boots comes back in the fall, it's going to be a champion. It's just a question of which. Currently, he's engaged in negotiations with Sebastian Fundora that I approach with a lot of skepticism. I don't want to get excited yet, but if they can make it, that is a fan-friendly fight. Fan-friendlier than a Josh Kelly fight would be, because Josh Kelly's not an action guy. He's a pure boxer. He's going to stick and move, stay on the outside, on his toes, on his bike. Boots would have to go after him. He'd have to catch him. Whereas with Sebastian, he's likelier to engage and likelier to trade punches in the pocket.
I think that Boots can beat them both, but Josh Kelly does present a peskier style than Sebastian Fundora.
So he might end up going undisputed after all.
I was skeptical as to whether or not he would, whether or not he could, because I didn't expect Sebastian Fundora to fight him. I expected him to play sides of the street, play keep away with his WBC title, but apparently they're negotiating.
Still room for things to go wrong.
I think this is the more difficult fight to negotiate, depending on what Samson Lukowicz and Sebastian want for the fight. It would undoubtedly be billed as a pay-per-view.
Of course it would. They made the Tim Tszyu fight a pay-per-view. They made the fucking Keith Thurman fight a pay-per-view. So of course they're gonna want pay-per-view for this.
There's the matter of distribution. Up until recently, Sebastian Fundora has been fighting exclusively on the Amazon Prime platform. Not that I think Amazon Prime is all that concerned with where PBC fighters fight.
Because they're not.
Doesn't mean Samson Lukowicz won't try to use that as a bargaining chip, an excuse to make things difficult and ask for more money. That if what you want is for my guy to fight on your side of the street, it's gonna cost you extra. How much is the DAZN platform willing to pay to bring Sebastian over to their side, and for just one fight?
I don't know, we'll see.
Been saying this all time. There's plenty of room and plenty of time for things to go sideways in negotiations. I think the ideal sequence of fights, in an ideal world, would be Boots versus Josh Kelly and Vergil Ortiz versus Sebastian Fundora.
Let those two guys clean up the junior middleweight division and settle up with each other in the coming calendar year. The problem is, Vergil and his people have been asleep at the wheel. You had 2 years to get Sebastian in the ring.
Theoretically, if Jaron Boots Ennis were to beat Sebastian Fundora and collect his alphabet title, that would make Vergil Ortiz his mandatory challenger. And so the fight could still happen. But do you think these guys are going to fight Boots for what a mandatory gets?
It's somewhere in between 25 and 35%. If you can wrangle it, I'm telling you, Peanut Ricky and the guys over at Golden Boy might want half. And they're not entitled to it.
But that won't stop them from asking.
They fucked up.
Just imagine the scene. If this fight actually gets made for Jaron Ennis, and then Vergil Ortiz announces his upcoming tune-up fight, those are going to be very poor optics for him and very poor optics for Golden Boy on the DAZN platform, because here you have Matchroom getting shit done with a promoter that ain't even on DAZN, where your guy, he had 2 years to do it. Don't forget that while Golden Boy Promotions may have reached an extension with DAZN earlier this year, it's not a long-term deal. It's only for 2 years. Golden Boy Promotions has 2 years to deliver solid content to the DAZN platform, and 6 months into this one, they've yet to do that.
It's the biggest show Golden Boy did this year.
More generally, this is good for the health of the American boxing scene, this potential fight between Boots Ennis and Sebastian Fundora that would undoubtedly take place in the United States. Normally, if you do happen to get a good fight in a big-time event, you have to wait a year and a day for the next one, whereas Boots just fought in a very good fight against Xander, and here, before the year is out, we may get another one. That's encouraging. That's what the American boxing scene needs, a sense of continuity.
This is a fight I think they could get behind, a fight they would care about, not an international fight with international fighters, because we all know how xenophobic the Americans are. But this is two homegrown champions, potentially fighting on U.S. soil,
with no Saudi intervention to outsource the fight to some far-off region of the world. I like the news. I hope they can get it done. I'm skeptical, but we'll see.